Good morning, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Water Break Chats. And today we have an exciting topic. We have our technical expert, Dave Morera, on the call with us, who is going to walk us through some user experiences, some day one user experiences on how to onboard DPUs onto your virtual infrastructure and how to accelerate infrastructure functions and run workloads. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Dave, who will show us how a day one experience looks like in trying to onboard DPUs. Hey, Dave, welcome to the show.
Hey, Raghav, happy to be back. And thanks for that. Thanks for the intro. Yeah, I'm very, very excited to share with everybody what we're doing with ESXi on DPUs, right? We announced this year at VMware Explore US, as well as Barcelona. And it is super simple to get started. And that's what I want to show everybody on how to get started with vSphere on DPUs. So the process, one of the main process is to install ESXi on not only the x86 server, but also the data processing unit. You know, unless you have some type of connection to it, it is kind of difficult to get to that NIC directly. So what we're doing here is we have connected internally when you purchase the servers. Those DPUs are connected to the iDRAC or ILO. And from there, the process is exactly the same as you're used to it now as far as installing ESXi. So let's take a quick look or how to do it. So we have already mounted the ESXi version 8 on the x86 server on the iDRAC, and now we're going to power on the server. So we select the power on, say yes, and during the boot up process, the server is going to understand, and it's going to go and do a scanning of the hardware and see there is a DPU installed already on this particular server. Now, the process here, you can see it's exactly the same, but during the scanning process, now we see that there's a DPU showing up and it's telling us, hey, there's an NVIDIA Bluefield 2 that is available. Do you like to install also ESXi on it? So we're going to say, absolutely, let's install ESXi, same exact version, same exact ISO on both the x86 and the data processing unit. The process from here on, it's exactly the same. We're going to select what we're going to install. We're going to override the MFS data store, select our username and password. Everything's exactly the same. So the only difference there was to select the data processing unit to install ESXi. Again, as we're rebooting the server and have already installed ESXi, it's going to do another scanning and it's going to understand that there's a DPU attached to the iDRAC, to the ILO, and now we're ready to add this particular server to vCenter.
So Dave, it looks like the only new thing I had to learn was to click a new option to install ESXi on the DPU. Same tools, same user experience, same workflows.
That is correct. All you had to do was select that extra box and away you go, right? Super simple, super easy. Now, so one of the things that we need to understand is that the DPU is part of the ESXi host, of the x86 host. It's not a different host. So as you can see here, now I'm on vCenter and I have added the 3 hosts that I just deployed. And as you can see, there's no additional objects per se showing, hey, you have DPUs here, DPUs there. It's exactly the same way you will see now in version 7, etc. So the DPUs are actually managed through the host. So that is something very important to understand. So here I have clicked on one of the hosts. And if we scroll down, we can see now information about the DPU. So remember, this is a smart NIC. It's just another component of the server, but we can actually see information about it. We can see some performance numbers, etc. So it's a very, very easy not only to install, but also to manage, right? So one of the things we're doing with ESXi on DPUs in the first phase is to be able to offload the NSX traffic to the data processing unit. So you may think, hey, I know it sounds obvious that I need to have NSX, and yeah, that's one key part. So right here we have logged into the NSX manager that we have already deployed for this particular environment, and we're going to go ahead and add that vCenter server to the NSX. Here you can see that we have already done that. So let's go quickly go through it. Very simple process of adding that vCenter to NSX. And once we have compared that, we can go back and start a process. So the next step is to now create a distributed switch. So this is the same distributed switch you know of and been using for years, right? The only difference is now that NSX is able to see what's happening with its distributed switches. One important factor here is to use the version 8 of those distributed switches. And here you will see a new option. And this is where we're connecting everything. So when you're thinking about vCenter, ESXi, DPUs, NSX, everything comes together here with this particular setting, which is network offloads compatibility, right? So this new setting is going to say, okay, I know you have DPUs because we saw them when we booted the server. They have ESXi because now the ESXi host can see that as well. And we're going to select the vendor for the DPU card that we have. So it's either AMD Pensando at the moment or NVIDIA Bluefield. In this case, we have Pensando. It has 2 uplinks, 2 ports. So we're going to select that and we're going to create a port group later. Settings process is exactly the same you can do now. And here we can see that we have created a distributed switch, right? Process after this, you may recognize this, that you have to go out and add those hosts from vCenter to this particular VDS. There's a different option here. Now we're going to present to you that whether you have compatible or incompatible hosts. So the VDS, we already told it that we have Pensando DPUs. And if the hosts don't have Pensando DPUs or have a different vendor like NVIDIA, it's going to say they're incompatible. But in this case, they are compatible, right? We don't have any incompatible host in here. So we're going to select them all because they all have Pensando DPUs. So we're going to go ahead and just map the uplinks to the 2 ports. So VMNIC 3 and 2 and 3 are the ports on those that SmartNIC. And the process is exactly the same after this. Nothing new to learn, right? Very little difference between what we know from prior to version 8 to now. So if we go back to NSX, now we can go back to the profiles and we're going to create a SmartNIC profile and a transport node profile. Super simple process. You have to do this regardless of using DPUs or not anyway. So we're going to just create one quick and we have created a SmartNIC profile. And now we're going to create a transport node profile that would go to apply to the ESXi host. The transport zones, we're going to do overlay on VLAN transport zones, and we're going to apply that uplink profile we just created. We're going to use the SGP and just map the uplinks for the DPU. Okay. So after a few seconds, we're going to see that transport node has been created. And now we're ready to move on to the last step to get us going, right?
Dave, at this point, have we offloaded NSX?
So at this point, we have not completed the configuration that we want to do. So we have not, we're almost there. We're 2/3 of the way in. And the last piece we have to do is just install NSX on the host, but also the DPUs. So the difference here between installing ESXi, right? We went through that process, the same process, just one check. The process here is also the same. We're just trying to make it super easy. We manage the DPUs through the host. So let's go out and select our vCenter from our transport nodes. And now we are able to see our 3 hosts. And you can see here that the NSX configuration has not been configured. So obviously we have to go out and push down NSX. So you can see here that next to the cluster, we see vLCM. So we're going to leverage vLCM, vSphere Lifecycle Management, from our vCenter to install NSX on both the x86 servers as well as the DPUs. Very easy, simple process. All right, so we have selected our host, and now we're going to just click on Configure NSX, select the transport node we just created, and apply that as well. All right, we have selected all of them, and then we're going to go back to vCenter, and we can see that now it's importing updates into those servers, the the service that we have here. So let's click on one of the hosts. Let's go to updates. And this is using vLCM. So we're still loading the update. So still in compliance. But after, if we go back to the cluster and we select an update, we're gonna we're gonna check on compliance. Now we're gonna see some compliance differences after a while, right? Going back to NSX, now we can see the remediation has started, just pretty much just downloading all the bits. And now this is the important part, right? So we're at the cluster level under updates. This is vLCM. And we can see host, but under each host, we can see this number and letters and all scribbles everywhere, right? What does that mean? Like I said before, we're managing DPUs as part of the host. We're not managing those individually as different objects. Even though they have ESXi, they're not a separate host. You can't run VMs. We're using that. We're installing ESXi so you can talk to the host and offload some of those services, especially NSX in this case. So we're installing NSX on the host, and it's going to pass that down to the DPU. It's still on us right here. The host is going to be rebooted, and the remediation is going to enable that VMware NSX version 401. If we click on the DPU, now it says the DPU is not in compliance. We're going to apply NSX. Cool, right? So once we get that started, that is going to apply that to all the hosts, all the DPUs. So after a while, we can see how the installation process it's done. It's completed. So we can go back and select the vCenter, expand the cluster, and we see the host now. We have applied and configured NSX, installed the NSX client on the host, but also the DPUs. They have all completed successfully, and it's just as easy, just like this, to install NSX and ESXi. So this is just getting started with DPUs, ESXi and DPUs, from installing ESXi, enabling that offload capability, and installing NSX. Super, super easy.
Dave, in all this process, I saw that we were reusing the ESXi installer. We were reusing the vCenter user interfaces. We were reusing the vLCM, the same LCM tool that was used to manage the CPUs, now is being used to manage DPUs. So it's a seamless experience. And in under, I dare to say, 10 minutes, we were able to install and onboard all that is necessary to run DPUs in your virtual infrastructure. That's pretty amazing.
It is. It is really easy. We're trying to make it as easy as possible. All the magic happens on the back end. We're just enabling little pieces here and there, and then enable that offload capability, and we take care of the rest. Everything happens automatically on the back end.
If this is the day one experience, I can only imagine what kind of day two experiences our customers are going to have operationally maintaining DPUs. It is going to be super easy. I've also heard you mention that VMware is working on offloading other infrastructure services such as vSAN. So I hope to have you on another edition of Breakroom Chats and walk us through how a breeze it would be to add vSAN when we have that functionality ready. But can we see you in another chat edition where you're walking us through offloading other exciting technologies from VMware?
Absolutely. Happy to come back. I really like this technology. I think it has a very bright future, and the use cases are going to be endless, in my opinion. So very, very excited about the future of this particular feature.
Excellent. With that, Dave, I'd like to thank you. We'll see you on another edition of Breakroom Chats. And I wanted to thank everyone who tuned in. I hope you found this useful, and we'll see you on another edition. Until then, take care.